Hi everyone, this is Raven and Campbell from Boozicals, and we'd
Hello.
like to talk to you today about a nonprofit music education group that we are partnering with.
Yep, we'd like to talk to you about Education Through Music. They partner with under-resourced schools to provide music as a core subject for all children. And they utilize music education as a catalyst to improve academic achievement, motivation for school, and self-confidence.
Exactly. So they work with 52 different partner schools throughout New York City, and they work with them to institute sustainable music education programs by hiring qualified teachers, matching them with the school, and really equipping the teachers with the tools to succeed and be able to provide quality music education to all of the students attending that institution. So we think, from this podcast, we think it's incredibly important to provide music education to all children, that everyone should have access to it to help, really instill those lifelong passions that have been so influential for Campbell and I. So we believe that supporting this organization is the way you can support our podcast.
Yep, and you can do so by going to give.etmonline.org/boozicals. Again, that's give.etmonline.org/boozicals. And yeah, you can really help these kids if that's what you're into.
Support the youths.
Okay. Shut up. Don't patronize me. Okay.
I don't need you.
Enjoy the episode. I'm done with this.
Hey everyone, I'm Raven.
And I'm Campbell.
And you are listening to Boozicals, which is a new podcast that we are doing together.
Yeah, basically the premise is we watch a musical, then we drink a lot while we talk about it, and at the very end, we will be playing some kind of piece from the musical with different instruments that Raven and I know. Granted, it will not be good. We will be drunk.
Yeah, and we will do it with as little practice ahead of time as possible. So you will be getting the raw and uncut version of our abilities, well, drunk abilities. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I think it'll be pretty fun. This is a game Raven and I usually do. We currently live on opposite sides of the country, but when we didn't, a fun game we would like to do, we would just jam, find random sheet music on the internet, drink too much, and then just play and each other before eating a bunch of junk food. So
there were some fun nights.
Excited.
Some fun nights. So we have one movie lined up for tonight, but before we get into that, Campbell, what new music have you been listening to this week?
Funny when you say new music, it's actually been old music because I can never listen to new things. I know what I like, and I'm going to continue to listen to them. So this week in particular, for some reason, I got really back into The Offspring.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I was listening to, well, here's what happened. I recently watched Scooby-Doo Zombie Island, and one of the songs in it, It's Terror Time Again, always reminded me of the Offspring song, You're Gonna Go Far, Kid. So I was like, I should listen to that. What have you been listening to?
All right, cool. So I actually have been really getting into rap lately, which for anyone who knows me is not a normal thing for me. But I've actually really gotten into Migos lately. I don't really know what started it. I was listening to Bad and Bougie. I've always loved their song Fight Night because that's just a very good club party drinking song. And I was listening to Bad and Bougie recently, and then I got onto the song that they have called Stir Fry, which is just absolutely hilarious. I love it. I've been listening to a lot of that, finding some, not new rappers, but I guess rappers that everyone else that listens to rap already knows and has known for several years, but I just never listened to. I've started a new playlist for it. It's been pretty great. It's been like an awakening, I feel like.
That's pretty funny. you don't listen to that kind of music.
Indeed, I do not. I'm discovering a whole new side of myself, I have found. So it's gonna be real interesting to see where this goes. Yeah. Okay, so for this week, we decided to watch Anastasia, which is a 1997 film or animated film about the lost Romanov daughter, Anastasia, and basically the film follows her after she leaves her orphanage at the age of, I think, 18, and then travels to St. Petersburg and meets up with two pseudo con men who try to pass her off as the real Anastasia.
Pseudo, as in they're not good at it.
They're quite good people, actually, for being criminals. But yeah, so basically they want her to impersonate the Princess Anastasia, who was lost or separated from her grandmother during the rebellion when the Romanov family was killed in the palace. And they tried to get the Grand Empress to... Or, no, that's not her name. Get the Grand Duchess? What was her title? Anastasia was the Grand Duchess. She was I think she was the Empress. The Empress Dowager.
Dowager Empress.
Yes. And they try to get the Dowager Empress to convince the Dowager Empress that she's the real Anastasia so that they can get the award, which is like basically $10 million.
Yeah. And so, in spirit of that movie, what we are also going to be doing, what we're drinking every week is going to be somewhat related. So what we're drinking this week is called a Red Rasputin, which is basically just an alcoholic cherry cola.
Delicious.
It's pretty good. Haven't had one before. Yeah, I'm excited to drink like 8 of them. So.
Oh, okay. We'll see where the night goes. So I guess let's just get into it. So first things first. Once Upon a December is an amazing song, and that just needs to be said right off the bat, I feel like, because...
Yeah, the reason this movie was picked first, we're going to alternate picking ones. I chose this first because way back when, one time when I was hanging out, we watched this movie, and this is a typical song we play when we're acting like drunk fools. So it just felt right.
Also, I think for the purpose of the story, this movie was made in 1997, so I'm assuming it is not possible for there to be spoilers at this point, so we're just going to talk pretty openly about it.
Absolutely.
One of the things I really like about Once Upon a December in the context of this film is that it kind of like perfectly fits the bill for what it's meant to be. Like, it's like a lullaby with a very simple melody that kind of gets stuck in your head, and it's kind of like the perfect song to be like a lost melody that Anastasia like half remembers, and it's kind of just like stuck in her dreams throughout the entire movie until the end when she actually realizes that she is Anastasia. And I think just like the way Once Upon a December was written is just, it just so perfectly fits the bill for its role in the movie.
Oh, 100%. It's also I think the technical term would be qualified banger.
Indeed.
So do you want to start us off with some like actual history for the film?
Yeah, so just to kind of like talk a little bit about it. I mean, obviously, like many animated children's films that are based on historical events, it's not very close to what happened historically. But just like a general overview, I mean, it's obviously like based off of the fall of the Romanov family, and it follows characters like Rasputin, the Dowager Empress, Anastasia, but a lot of it is actually very different from the way the movie shows it. Like, I think it's interesting. So like they show Rasputin as being like the enemy of the family and the one who like caused their downfall and everything. But historically, like Rasputin was actually a very close friend and advisor to the Romanov family. And he was actually killed before the Romanov family was. So like really he wouldn't have been there for any of the events as they happened. But
yeah, it is interesting though, when you said it was like kind of an advisor, like pseudo advisor, like the way he like met the Romanov family is that Alexis, the youngest son in the family, apparently he cured Rasputin cured his hemophilia because he was just like that kind of, you know, healer, or that's like what he claimed and stuff. And then since after, Rasputin would always be like, oh, I'm the closest advisor to this family and stuff, even though the family were like, no, it really was just like he healed our son and we're just on good terms. That's about it. Yeah. Which I think was pretty interesting. Rasputin was like, nope, I'm the clear advisor. It's me. I'm not crazy and don't do crazy things.
But yeah, so basically the events of the movie kind of follow the Russian Revolution of the 1917, the events of like 1916, 1918, basically. So basically what was going on was the Bolsheviks were like basically a revolutionary group that were led actually by Vladimir Lenin, who kind of like took over during like the form of the Soviet Union. And the Bolsheviks, like basically they were rebelling and like revolting against imperialist rule. So the Romanov family had been ruling for over 300 years at the time of the Bolshevik Revolution. And when they actually like kidnapped them, I believe at the beginning of like during 1917, and basically held the family captive until their death in like 1918. And after they died, they actually didn't tell the people that the entire family was dead. They only actually confirmed the death of the Tsar, because Lenin was just like, the Tsar is dead, we're taking over, basically. And they became like the Communist Party that formed like the Soviet Union and everything. But they actually didn't confirm the death of the rest of the family, which is why there were so many rumors that some of the children may have survived or gotten away, which then sparked the whole like myth about Anastasia possibly being alive or Alexei possibly being alive, which I find like really, really interesting. But yeah, so they actually had 5 children, and the interesting thing was when imposters started to come up saying like, hey, you know, maybe some of the children survived and like I'm one of them. There were a few like Anastasia imposters, but only one of them like really was kind of believed for a long time until DNA evidence came around to say like it wasn't her. And her name actually was Anna Anderson. And basically she was this young woman who, it was like 2 years after the death of the family. And she actually jumped off of a bridge in Berlin. And then was like pulled out of the water and put into like a psychological asylum, or what's that? No, an insane asylum. That's what it's called. And one of the other patients at the insane asylum was just like, this girl looks like Tatiana Romanov, like one of the daughters of the Tsar. And so she got like all these people around and like former like friends and servants, stuff like that of the Romanovs, and said like, oh, like I found Tatiana Romanov, like this girl is Tatiana Romanov. And they came over and they were just like, nah, that's not her. And then Anna was just like, oh, like I never said I was Tatiana. And so they were just like, well, who are you? And they actually gave her a list of like all of the children's names and how to cross off the ones that like to confirm the one that she was. And she like crossed off all the names except Anastasia. And so like from then on, like everyone was just like, oh, cool, you're Anastasia. But she was like, the way she kind of went about it was actually really weird, because she actually was kind of like really aloof from like all of the friends and like family members and stuff like that. Like a lot of people really thought she looked like Anastasia, and really thought like she could be her. But she was just like really volatile, like emotionally, and would refuse to like interact with a lot of the people, a lot of the family and friends.
I think that's a smart way to going about impersonating someone, is not talking sense, to people. Right? And you don't have to lie a lot, you know? Like if I was going to impersonate someone famous from history, try to, you know, steal their identity, I would want to talk to as little people as possible. Especially direct family members, because like they're the ones that are going to know. Yes. And the interesting thing is there's actually one of the aunts, I think it was like Aunt Irene or something. She actually came to visit her and like sat down, like ate dinner with her. And when she came in, she didn't tell her that she was her aunt. And then at the end was just like, so you don't know who I am? Like, you don't know that I am your aunt, like a direct relation, like that we've met when you were a child, like all this other stuff. And that was basically when she was just like, you are not Anastasia. Like, you are not my niece. Like, there's no way. Because you literally didn't even recognize me. And then not Anastasia, but like Anna was saying all this stuff about like, oh, well, like, it was a trap. Like, you were trying to set me up. Like, you were just trying to confirm that I'm not an imposter and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, but you were an imposter, and that's why I know, because you're not Anastasia. And like, yeah, that like they were like, yeah. So like, it's like, how dare you confront me about lying to family members of their like dearly beloved that have passed?
And so yeah,
I
so
feel
a few
bad.
of them were pretty. A few of the direct family members were convinced that it wasn't her, but the general public actually really thought that she might be Anastasia for a long time until 2009, when they finally got like DNA evidence to say like, oh no, that's not. Anastasia's been dead for like a long time. There's no way that's her.
Yeah, and it was interesting because I believe it was like the early 1990s was like an original forensic investigation. And they found like 9 bodies belonging to Anastasia's families and servants, from like a shallow grave they found back in the 70s. But the country like suppressed findings from the public until the Soviet Union collapsed. So then that's when the forensic investigation started. And so in like 1991, Anastasia and her brother Alexei, those bodies like still appeared to be missing. Mm-hmm. But then it was like thousands. They like rechecked and they're like, oh, nope, they're there.
The crazy thing was they buried them in like unmarked graves, like all together. And they went through like so many lengths to make sure that they wouldn't be identified. Like, I think it was Alexei and Maria where like their bodies were actually burned. And then, so they buried them together, took all of their effects that showed like that they were even remotely like royalty and like stuff like that. They poured like acid in there and like they buried them like all together in like unmarked graves, just like randomly like out in the dilderness. And they did end up having to move.
I mean, if you're going to do it, you do it right.
That is a concerning statement, but yes, you are correct. Yeah, and then they had to move. They had to move Alexei and Maria's bodies, which is like to a separate unmarked grave, and that's like why they took so long to get found. But it's really crazy, like the lengths they went to not only hide their bodies, but then to deceive the entire Russian population about their whereabouts, whether or not they were alive or dead. You know, they really did the damn thing. They were pretty thorough.
Yeah. So that's the backstory that Fox did not adhere to strictly.
Probably for the best.
Yeah, probably for the best. It would be like kind of a bummer of a children's movie. It was like, you know, Sixth Sense, like he was dead the whole time. I didn't know this was Fox's first animated film.
Oh, I was not aware of that.
Yeah, that's what some website said. And then I was trying to look into like, you know, prior ones, and of course there weren't. So as a first animated film, I think they crushed it.
Yes.
And especially like the first shot of the movie with the music box, like in the intro, the animation, which I will be talking about a lot through this because I love animation. But it was so cool, like the combination of like the 2D background, but like in the music box, like the 3D like figures. It was just, I don't know, beautiful, really well done. And that kind of like ornate setting really set like a good tone for the movie.
Yeah, I think the overall like artistry of the movie was just so well done. And like I don't really know a lot about animation, but at least from like the musical side, I know like they really worked hard on the score and the lyrics, and like they put a lot of like soul really into the story that they were setting, and the musical accompaniment. And I really think just like from an overall artistic standpoint, they just knocked it out of the park with this movie, especially if it was their first.
Yeah. Did you think, so the beginning, it's like a grand like ball, I think they said for like the 300th anniversary of like the family or something like that. Did you think Rasputin's like entrance to it gave some like Maleficent
Absolutely
vibes?
It was totally like exactly like Maleficent walking into the throne room during the christening. Like it was same sort of energy. I loved it. Another thing I actually found really interesting was in the movie, so obviously like Rasputin wasn't truly like magical sorcerer or whatever he was.
Well, you don't know that.
But that's true. I was not there. I do not know. But I think it's interesting how they kind of showed that he used the magic, like dark spirits, whatever he has, like for the Romanov curse that he got. The spirits like basically made the people like rise up and like rebel against the Romanovs and like stuff like that, which like led to their downfall. Which actually, like, without the use of magic is not necessarily that far from what actually happened. Like there actually was like a rebellion, revolution. Like
oh yeah,
I thought it was really
metaphor.
cool, like how they kind of like merged it with like pseudo history. You know, I found that really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also really like after the introduction of like kind of the exposition with like this is what happened to the Romanovs. Anastasia got separated from her grandmother, and now we're moving into the actual story. The established
Before we get into that,
yeah,
Anastasia, when she like let go of her grandmother's hand when they're on the train, didn't hit her head that hard.
She did not. There's no way that girl had
It was just like
amnesia.
She was like basically fell to the ground. I mean, there was like a decent thud, but I don't think it was enough to induce such amnesia. It would just to be like more. I mean, maybe she like stepped on or something, but it was just kind of like lightly like fell to the ground.
Also, my biggest beef with that entire scene is that no one saw this little girl trying to run to get on this train with her. Like, no one wanted to help. Like, she couldn't have run a little faster. Like, I just feel like there were other ways that the situation could have been avoided.
I mean, apparently everyone was just like, fuck them kids. That was just...
I just like no one even cared. Like everyone saw this grandmother trying to hold onto her granddaughter's hand, and I was just like, you know what, she good, she's fine.
Yeah, like the grandmother could have been like, hey, someone help her. Thousands of people outside. So it's just more like, oh no.
Also, here's my thing: she could have gotten off the train.
Oh yeah.
Like you made a choice.
It's going slow enough for a child to be running behind it. Like, or could have just been like, you know what? Let's wait here, or like, let's catch the next one.
Like, I understand you're running away, but
was that the last train?
Like in existence? Because I feel like I understand you're running for your life, and there's like these people trying to kill you, but also at that point they had completely escaped the palace. They were out like in the common area. The grandmother at least was dressed in like common clothes, so unless like you just knew her face, you weren't going to immediately be like, oh, that's the Romanov family. You know what I mean? I feel like she could have just gotten off the train and stayed with her granddaughter, but then we wouldn't have had a movie. So, Are you already on your second drink? I got to catch up. Okay.
Yeah, it hasn't been that long into this. I'm on my second drink. It's tasty, and you can't really taste the booze, but every time I'm making it, I'm definitely thinking about the vine. 2 shots of vodka. It's like, pour it in. So it's going to be fun to see the proportions. Oh, you fancy. Are you drinking Grey Goose?
That's the vodka that I have. I'm bougie. I don't know why you're even surprised.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, so what I was, the establishing shot directly before, like once they do kind of the time skip, after the initial introduction of the family, I find it really interesting.
Which is 10 years later.
10 years later, yeah. But I really like the way they do that establishing shot. So it's like the shot of the clouds, and then you see the top 2 like turrets, I guess, from the, I forget what it's called, but it's like one of the big buildings in St. Petersburg.
Is it one of the cathedrals?
I think it's supposed to be like based off that design.
The Peter and Paul Cathedral just has like the one gold spire.
Yeah, but it has like the clouds with like the 2 gold spires above it. That's like very reminiscent of like, okay, this is like traditional like old like Russian architecture, and then the sort of the camera moves like below the clouds, and then you see like all the industrial like factories
like into the fog, into
and
the mist.
It's really cool how they like kind of did that, like, okay, like this is like during a transitionary period of Russian history where they're moving from like the imperialist kind of like 1800s style like culture to like, okay, now like we're in like the Industrial Revolution, we're getting into communism, Soviet Union, like all that stuff. So I just really think it was interesting how they kind of use like the visuals to show that transition a little bit.
And I think it was a pretty good general environment opening song. Like technically they did like a little snippet of Once Upon a December between the grandmother and Anastasia, in like the intro before like the fall of the Romanovs. But as the general is like, oh, this is the world now, and just exposition building, I think it was a pretty good song. They're just a bunch of gossips, which I think is very true to form of like the human condition. Like, we're just nosy. And that was just
I also like
the song.
I actually really love I think it's becoming a trope almost at this point, but I love the use of like a chorus, I guess, like song for exposition. Like they have it in this movie, they have it in like Beauty and the Beast where they're like singing about Belle.
Really any musical.
I think like so many of them have it, and especially like a lot of like animated like children's movies like this, and I always think it's great. I really love the scenes like that.
Oh yeah, I always love it. And so like during this song, they were like, "Have you heard that, you know, the lost princess Anastasia like may be around?" And that's when we're also introduced to Dmitri and Vladimir, the two horrible con artists, way too nice people to be con artists. We will for a while, and their plans to like have auditions for a woman to get like, you know, a good reward from the grandmother. And it's cool seeing it for the first time, and it was very clear because I don't know if they like were trying to hide it. I doubt, but from the beginning of the movie, when the grandma and Anastasia like got to escape, they escaped through like a hole in the wall that one of the servant boys like opened up, and the servant boy is Dmitri.
Yeah. And I also think in the when they're showing him in the initial opening scene, kind of like setting exposition, the man that he's interacting with, I think is actually Vladimir, because Vladimir also said that he was like part of the court, like the Romanov court and everything, so he would have also been at the castle. So I think it was like both of them together in that scene. Yeah.
I also thought really good casting choices for them. Dmitri, John Cusack, this is his first voice act role. You know, him from like being John Malkovich, High Fidelity, that actor. And then Vladimir is voiced by Kelsey Grammer, Frasier, who my favorite role of his, and I think Raven agrees with me, is Kelsey Grammer as Kelsey Grammer in 30 Rock.
Absolutely, hands down. His best role ever. Where he was also playing a con artist.
Yes, the Best Friends Club. We watched too much 30 Rock. And then Jonathan Dolkich, I think is how you say his name, is the singing voice for Dmitri, and he's been credited in like Pocahontas, this movie 2 Weeks Notice kind of thing, more like background kind of stuff.
Also, doesn't Angela Lansbury play the Dowager Empress?
We're gonna get to it. Don't you worry.
Okay, I'll let you touch on that. But one of the things I also noticed a lot, kind of like throughout the movie, they do it for the first time when Anastasia meets Dmitri and Vladimir at the palace. But I noticed that throughout the movie, anytime they do a close-up of Anastasia, they have like, there's always like a band of light, or like there's always like some sort of focus on her eyes. Yeah. Which I think is really interesting because they like during that initial scene where she's meeting them and they're trying to convince her to pretend to be Anastasia, they say like, oh yeah, you know, you have the same blue eyes as Anastasia and like all that other stuff. And even I think also when the Dowager Empress like meets her, she also makes a comment about, it's either her or Sophie that also make a comment about her eyes. And it's like literally every time throughout the movie they do a close-up of her, there's always like light and like focus on her eyes, which I found like really interesting from just a, I guess not cinematography because it's animated, but cinematography standpoint.
Yeah. So then after we kind of, you know, have the exposition of what's going on in the world, we were then introduced to Anya, who is 18 and kicked out of the orphanage that she spent the past 10 years at, all she has left is a necklace says like meet me in Paris or
Together in Paris.
Together in Paris. That's it. Thank you. Which is like the key to the music box, which we'll get into later. And then she has like been given a job in like a fish factory from the head of the orphanage,
who is a very mean lady.
Okay, she did take care of her for 10 years and then got her a job.
That's fair.
But that's not even the frustrating point. The frustrating point of that. What I was really bothered by. So Anya leaves. Sees like a sign, one sign leading to just called Fisherman's Village, that's just what it's called, and then the other to St. Petersburg. And then she was like, "Oh, give me a sign," and then Puka, the dog, comes from the snow from somewhere, So like it's like no, go to St. Petersburg is like that's like what it's alluding to. And fun fact about the dog in the Russian dub, the name was Pushak or however you say that, which means fluff in Russian. Puka, okay, yeah, and it was supposed to be after, like the family did have a spaniel, Joy, that belonged to the young son, who did survive throughout the assassination and lived out the rest of his days in England.
I also read.
On the Colonel.
I also read. Let me double check my notes here. But I also read that Anastasia had a dog named Jimmy. Wait, no, was it Jimmy? No, that's not right.
Yeah, it was Jimmy. But Jimmy.
It was
died.
Jimmy. But didn't Jimmy die? Yeah. Which is that's just real sad.
Yeah, Jimmy died. I was just be like, Joy lived and had a happy life, so that's a good thing. And then you just brought us down. So,
sad things happen.
And then we get into like Anya's first song, also Anastasia, voiced by Meg Ryan, which is
absolutely
crazy. And then the singing voice is Liz Calloway. But during the first song, Journey to the Past, which like won a bunch of awards and is amazing, during the whole like fluid animation kind of thing, it was beautifully done. But her scarf was sticking out of her pocket and dragging along the ground for the entirety of it, and I could not stop watching.
That would be the thing that you focus on.
Either put your scarf on or just put it fully in your pocket. Like, how's it just staying in there? It's just like, it looks like it's going to be wrapped around her feet while she's like kicking and dancing, montaging. And I'm like, what are you doing?
That would be the thing you choose to focus on.
It would seem like more trouble to animate a flowing scarf from the waist all along the ground than her just
especially because it's snowy, so it's just going to get wet and cold, and then by the time you do actually go to put it back on, it's just going to be like, why? This cold, soaked thing is on my neck. Yeah. You have a point.
See, I just wanted you to acknowledge, let's not talk about it anymore, because I can talk for like another 30 minutes about this. So,
but yeah, Journey to the Past, I think, is a great song, and it really kind of begins to give you insight into Anastasia's like character and everything. I do like how it kind of becomes her theme song throughout the show. Like anytime she's like going into a new sort of unfamiliar environment or like just like doing anything, like it played like a reprise sort of version like plays of it just in the background, which I think is really great.
Yeah. Especially like when they go to the later on when they do get to Paris and they're like go to the Russian ballet. That's like playing in the background. So it's kind of whenever she's hopeful, just has a feeling throughout the movie, or something like good happens, like accomplished, like near that, like end of the movie when she like, gets the man instead of like, a fortune and whatever choice she decided there. That is like the background to it. It is just Anya's like internal like, hope.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting because like I don't know if this is also intentionally done in like other, well, this isn't a Disney movie, but in other like Disney like animated Pixar movies and stuff like that. But like I think it's really cool how like they really do try to use a lot of like symbolism. It feels like with the music and the lyrics especially, but with the music and the artistry of the movie, which I think is one of the things that even just for like an animated children's movie like makes it actually just a great film, because there is still a lot of actual intention and symbolism and real like thought put into the way things are drawn or depicted or like the music composition and everything.
Yeah. Music is not just background for this. It's the core of the story. A good example of that, specifically with the animation though. So she like gets to St. Petersburg. This really nice old woman who's just like, hey, if you need a passport, I know a guy. Then she like goes to the old it was the Winter Palace, I believe.
Yeah, it was it was the old palace where
like, and then she goes in there, sees everything, and then she starts to remember things, and she's on like one of the ballrooms, and this is when Once Upon a December starts fully. And when I wrote specifically in my notes, when the dust from the paintings and everything like comes off into people, I just wrote hell yeah. And like just during that scene, I was just like, hell yeah, that looks great.
Absolutely.
But when she's like dancing with all the like memories, he is the only one with a shadow or reflection on the ground.
Yeah.
None of the other people come out from the dust, have any like reflection or shadow, which I thought was like really cool.
Yeah, like I think the animation of that scene is so well done because you never lose sight.
You can tell that's where all the money went.
Yeah, and like you never lose sight of the fact that this is all in her mind, but at the same time, there's almost like a certain amount of even though it's still early in the movie, I feel like as the viewer, like that's when you really start getting pulled into like her experience through this whole thing because like obviously we know that she's Anastasia, and we've seen the scene at the very beginning that like that ballroom scene is kind of based off of, and so it's really interesting like comparing the two. I do think the way that entire scene is depicted is kind of like really perfect for showing her own memory and her own like because it's still like a fantasy to her. It's not necessarily real. Like she still doesn't think that this is my life. Like this is actually who I am. You know.
Yeah, she was like memories from a dream is how she describes it, and a lot of these feelings, which like memories from a dream is not just dreaming, but like it's fine.
Yeah, and I actually one of my favorite lines from that song is when she says like things it yearns to remember, like because she's talking about how like. Because like she obviously like, doesn't really have any memory of this, but like she feels it like she in her heart like she feels these memories more than she actually knows that they happened, and I think that's a common theme like throughout the entire movie, and the way they kind of like play on that and use like the melody of Once Upon a December to kind of like trigger certain memories and certain ideas is really key.
Yeah, 100%. And the composition of this song is just so hauntingly beautiful. It's just, I mean, I'm always a fan of like those kinds of like waltz types of like songs, but like with the lyrics like Dancing Bears, Painted Wings, Things I Almost Remember, a song someone sings Once Upon a December. Just like that idea of just, you can like, you're almost there, you almost remember it. It's just like that kind of echo of what you used to know is just so amplified with how they wrote the music. And it's just between that and the arguably best animated scene of the movie, it just really sets this to be a wonderful musical, I think.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. And I also think it's really great at it's very fantastical in the imagery it paints, and I think it kind of goes hand in hand with like her not truly believing that these are memories. I think the way they kind of play off of that and give it that kind of like mystical, like haunted sort of feeling is actually what makes it not corny. Because I think, especially if it had been done by another animation studio potentially, I actually think like the storyline could very easily have been corny. Like especially with the whole like, she like.
Granted, there are very corny lines in the movie.
Yes.
And I've written them down. We'll be laughing about. This was not that. This was a very important scene that I think they got perfect.
100%. And I think like throughout the entire movie, the way they keep that common like motif going, both musically and visually, is really what helps you kind of like go along the journey of like discovering who Anastasia is like with her, because I think it very easily could have been done where it's like, oh, like I fell and like now I don't remember anything, and like something happens and it's like, oh my god, I remember everything, like I remember who I am, you know what I mean? But they really did everything very intentionally and slowly, and even though it's a very short movie, the way it kind of played out and the way the story flowed with the music and the imagery and just like tying it all together, it really made it like a true like journey along with Anastasia.
Yeah.
It also has occurred to me,
man, I love that
like
song.
Every time I've said her name, I have pronounced it differently, like either Anastasia or Anastasia, and I don't feel like I'm going to pick one. I'm just going to keep randomly going back and forth.
I feel like this is a good time. Let's just pick one. Let's say Anastasia, because that's what they say in the movie.
Yeah, but also I feel like it should be Anastasia.
I know you're going to have a problem with this, Raven. Yeah, but it's not. But also, this is fake.
That's true. That's true. All of this is fake. So, yeah, let's just say Anastasia.
Okay, cool. You said Anastasia like some minutes ago, and I was thinking in my head, I was like, she's going to sound really pretentious, which is like your go-to.
But like, I feel like I'm pretentious a lot. Yeah. So, but yeah. So like, especially okay. So like, moving forward with after she meets like Dmitri and Vladimir,
Plot.
And then they like go on the train and everything to like start traveling to Paris.
We get introduced at this point to Bartok.
Yes, who is a fantastic character.
Who got his own spin-off movie. What is it called? Bartok's Grand Adventure?
It is called Bartok the Magnificent.
Bartok the Magnificent, which takes place before the events of Anastasia.
Yeah, and the music in Bartok the Magnificent is actually done by the lyricist of Anastasia.
Yeah, voiced by Hank Azaria, who is does a million voices for a lot of things, just like a couple. He's on The Simpsons as like, a regular. He's like Moe Sislak from The Simpsons. But very extensive resume for voice acting. And then we see Bartok, and then we see Rasputin's glowing, vile, evil thing. And then Bartok's dragged by it into hell, and like we see Rasputin. So it's like really the exposition for like the villain's motives for the movie. Which I think Rasputin's a really interesting villain because they don't know he's the villain of the movie until he shows up at the very end.
Yeah.
Things just happen.
Yeah, they have no idea that anyone is like purposely causing the misfortunes that they're seeing or the situations they're having to deal with until literally.
They're very nonchalant actually about a lot of the misfortunes that they like start seeing.
Which is interesting because on the train they straight up almost died and they were just like, well, now we're walking, I guess.
They just had a lot of like zingers and one-liners. And they're like, well, what you gonna do? But so we're in the underworld or whatever kind of afterlife related limbo thing without Rasputin's in. And so Rasputin, voiced by Christopher Lloyd, who is Doc Brown, Back to the Future, is one of his many roles.
Also, I feel like was a fantastic choice for Rasputin.
100%. But some other, I think, I read somewhere some like actors that like were almost him or like were thought of for this role. There were a few. Sir Patrick Stewart was one of them.
Oh.
Yeah. Tim Curry was one of them. And then there was one more. And then Jonathan Pryce. He was the High Sparrow in Game of Thrones. Yeah, very prolific actors, all of them. But I'm really glad they went with Christopher Lloyd. And then the singing voice is Jim Cummings, who is really interesting. I think he did a really great job of the singing voice for Rasputin, and especially the first song we hear by him or the only song we hear by him, which is about to happen. But Jim Cummings is also the voice a lot of times for Winnie the Pooh and Tigger.
I was not aware of that.
Pete from Mickey Mouse related things like Goofy, like the neighbor, the villain. A lot of times Pete, Darkwing Duck. So like very prolific voice actor. And I think they could have almost just made him all of Rasputin.
Yeah, instead of just the singing voice.
Yeah, but I'm glad it was Christopher Lloyd though. I thought he did a really good job. This is a really 90s animated movie song in the dark of the night.
Absolutely.
It was like very Be Prepared Lion King-esque.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like during that entire
Did you also think that because it was like, a bunch of creatures walking in line and there's this weird green lighting going on?
I feel like the visualization of it was very similar. But I think a lot of the like all of the songs in this movie, like I don't think any one of them is like a bad song. I think all of them, like Once Upon a December and Journey to the Past are obviously like the main ones that kind of carry throughout the entire movie. But even in The Dark of the Night is still just a great song, and a fantastic musical scene with a lot of the imagery of like Rasputin, and just the way it's animated with him, like all the little creatures around and stuff like that. They really like give you just enough of the like hellish, like horrific sort of like scenery without actually making it like scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the like bugs in it were like very cutesy. They were like the obviously female bugs for some was like a creative choice. I'm like, it's a bug, it's fine.
It's a very common creative choice I found.
Yeah. But yeah, so now like they're on the train, and then Rasputin sends his little demons in the Hall of the Mountain King Fantasia fashion, which also great piece in the Hall of the Mountain King. Edvard Grieg, that's how you say his name.
I believe so.
Good, go Campbell. And so their train car gets cut. They move to where the luggage is because they have fake passports. Are luggage carts that close to like the engine? For some reason, I always thought they were like at the back of the train.
I didn't think so. I thought like luggage carts are normally near the caboose.
It was for like a plot device, like that they needed to be closer to the engine. So I can let that one go. The scarf, absolutely not. But with the so they get cut off from everyone because I was watching it. I was like, wait, does everyone in this movie, like in this train, die? But it's like, no, everyone else got saved. I guess except for the conductor because he's nowhere to be found.
None of the train staff is, which like I assume they're just like throughout the train, but like the engineer is normally the one who's like controlling the train. And and they were just, there's no one there, so I don't know what happened.
You know what? Not important. And then
we're bringing like real world stuff into an animated movie, so it doesn't really matter.
They were just so flippant about their situation when they were going too fast. The rest of the train car got disconnected. The bridge was destroyed, and they need to slow down. So Dmitri has an idea. So like trying to break apart the train car that got like fused together by like, demon fire or whatever. And then Anastasia just lights a stick of dynamite and just like, here you go.
And he's like, great idea.
Like, this is like, that'll work. And it's just like a lit pick, like lit stick of dynamite was just put in your face, and you're just like, thanks.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because, especially because like they have no idea why this is happening. They don't
question it. They're like, just like,
they just look up.
They are so good at a crisis,
right?
I think that should be commended.
And then even when they straight up derail the train and it is sliding sideways down the track, still careening towards where the bridge has been destroyed, they're just like, this is our stop, gotta jump off now. And it's just like...
Yeah, and even like right before that, when Dmitri is like, I need like the chains to throw, basically like grappling hook the track, slow it down. He's like, hand me the chain. And then Anastasia has the chain, and he's like, not you. And I was like, beggars can't be choosers. That's right. Dimitri.
And then the scene where like right after that, when he like slips a little bit while he's hooking it to the bottom of the train, and then like there's I think it's like the piece of debris or whatever it is, like flies at him, and she pulls him up just before it literally decapitates him. Like literally could have killed him in one stroke, and he was just like, glad that wasn't me. Like
he was like, remind me to thank you later, which I don't think he did.
No, he did not.
So rude. They were just so nonchalant, and then they like jump off the train, and they're like, "Okay, cool, let's walk from here."
It's just like, this is not how normal people react to having their train car cut from the train, derailed, the bridge blown up, and then having to literally jump from the train into a snowbank with all of their luggage. Like, that's just not how normal people react to that. But
yeah,
it's okay.
Well, we digress. And so in the movie, they come to a point where they're like going to a combination of like bus. It's going to be a travel montage. So they find out, Anastasia finds out that they're not going to meet her grandmother directly, that they have to go through the character Sophie. But this brings us into Vlad and Dmitri teaching her how to be Anastasia, which I think this is my favorite song in the movie. just like it's a very conversational back and forth lyrics, which is like emphasized more by the composition of the song, which I think is cool.
Yeah, it's also where like she actually starts to remember some stuff like on her own. Which I find very interesting.
And I recall a yellow cat.
Yeah, and then you kind of start to see like Vladimir and Dimitri's reaction, like, we didn't tell her that. Where is she getting this from? Which I find very interesting.
Oh, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, they just kind of like move on.
They don't think more about it. At least granted, we don't see them think more about it. They're just like, yep, we're just going to help this. We're just going to be scamming and not think anything about like all these weird things she's saying that we definitely didn't tell her. And there's no way that she would know.
Yeah. And then
after that traveling montage, then they like get to the boat, and it was, another life or death situation where she sleepwalks almost off the boat.
Look, she's literally standing on the edge, like on the side of the boat.
Great balance. I'm glad they did the practicing like routines beforehand, because imagine if like act all poised and like in a situation she would have fallen.
Especially because at one point, like while like her sleepwalking, like fantasy, whatever, she straight up is like not even holding onto the rope and just standing on the edge of the boat, which I'm just like, you have fallen. There's no way. Like you are falling.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm almost done. Let me finish this off real quick.
We're on drink number 3. I have stopped measuring at this point.
I feel like I can toss the rest of the bottle into this one. We'll see. I still have another little like airplane bottle of Grey Goose after this, so I think I'll be good.
That feels about right, what I just poured. Okay. Cheers.
I'm very excited to see how this side reading is going to go later.
Oh, it's going to be bad. I haven't played the clarinet in so long. Spoiler, I'm going to be playing the clarinet. Also, we would like to say to everyone that is listening, which will be just Raven and I, that we are not, we're not bad.
No.
We're not good.
Yes. We're not
good. We're not experts. We're not singers. We're just fans and borderline alcoholics. And
Indeed.
That is the heart of this.
Indeed.
Assume no one will be listening to this, but whether they are or they are not, we just have fun doing this kind of thing. So,
but yeah, I cannot stress enough how much we are not professional musicians. We are not music majors.
We are engineers.
we are engineers. We played music both in like public school, like middle school, high school, all that stuff. And we're decent. I feel like we can say that we're pretty good musicians. At least during our heyday when we actually played regularly.
During our heyday, I played like 6 different instruments for band. Like,
same.
I got the job done. I was a drum major. It was fine.
I've gotten to the point where like I almost feel bad when I tell people the instruments that I play, because it's like, these are instruments I know how to play. I am technically capable of playing, but to say that I play them is a bit of a stretch at this point in my life.
Yeah, I always say past tense.
That's fair.
I played the trombone. I played the mellophone. Played piano.
I should probably do that as well, because I feel like I'm misleading many, many people that I run into. Okay, should we probably actually get back on topic here?
Oh,
I feel
I guess.
No need, where were we?
So they're in Paris.
The boat scene. Yeah. We finished the boat scene. We're in Paris now.
Finished the boat. She almost died. Whatever. Again, I mean, this time she was like more scared, which I appreciated. Mm-hmm. Like understanding like what's going on. Just like, you can't do that, or you almost died. You should have some reaction.
But even then, he didn't react nearly as much. Like, I feel like she reacted a lot because like she was the one who literally almost died. But he didn't really have a reaction to her almost dying.
Yeah, except for like swinging on a rope, which was probably I don't know boats. I don't know sailing. But I feel like if you just like cut a part of a rope, it's attached to something important. And you can't just swing from the mountains. but again, I don't know. I'm not an expert on anything. So
Yeah, so I am also not a boat expert, but I do know a little bit about
Weird.
boats and sailing. And I am confident. I am confident that especially so in the particular scene, the boat was in like a massive storm. Like there were like waves coming up over the top of the boat and everything and splashing onto the deck, and he just cut a rope off and it wasn't even it looked like a crow's, like not the actual crow's nest because it wasn't like the top of one of the masts or anything, but it looked like a sort of like lookout spot because it was like a little basket that he was kind of in. He just cut a rope and then swung over to her, which I'm just like, one, even on a regular boat, that's not how that works. And two, not in the middle of a massive storm with high enough winds and waves to like, those were easily like 30 plus foot waves. There's no way. But that that's not the point of the movie. So
yeah. Maybe we should talk more about like the musical part.
That's fair. Maybe the music part actually matters for a musical. But
so they're in Paris, and we meet arguably, I think, the best character in the movie,
Sophie. Yes.
Yeah, Sophie, who just yeets some house staff woman out of the way in the door, which I thought was pretty great. Sophie, voiced by Bernadette Peters, who has such an interesting resume, kind of like Broadway star. She's also like a children's book author. My favorite children's show growing up, Animaniacs, she was one of the main characters.
I didn't know that.
The cat.
Oh my god, are you serious?
Like Rita and Runt? Yeah, she's Rita.
Oh, that's amazing.
And when I was like looking on IMDb, like looking up like her like credits and stuff like that, apparently they're in the works for a new Animaniacs.
Oh, I'm so down for that.
Yeah, same. So anyway, Sophie, best character, gets introduced, and she tries to quiz them if she's the real Anastasia, because the grandma, like after the last one, it was like, you know what, no more. I've seen, I think she says, too many Anastasias for a lifetime, something like that, and refuses to see any more impersonators. But Anastasia like passes all the tests and mentions a secret of like how they escaped that only Anastasia is supposed to know. Marie, her grandmother, and Dimitri, the one who let them escape, which lets him know that like she's the real deal. So this kind of like shift in intention is really important in the movie.
Yeah, which I think is really interesting because then like when they go from that into the scene at the Russian ballet, where he's like trying to get the Dowager Empress like meet her and everything, and then she overhears them and finds out like, oh, like they were using her to like impersonate Anastasia and stuff like that. I just want to touch on when he comes out from talking to the Dowager Empress and she like confronts him about like, oh, you were just using me to like get your money and like blah blah blah. Can we talk about how she bitch slaps him into next week?
Let's talk about the song before that scene. But I have taken copious notes of Jen. So, plot-wise, Sophie was like, she won't see you, but we do go to the Russian ballet. She never misses it. So they're like, okay, they're going to explore Paris, get ready for the ballet, and then kind of like surprise the Dowager Empress.
Yeah.
So then we're at the song, Paris Holds the Key, parentheses, to Your Heart, which was the song with the most references. For example, like the background, like especially when they're on the Eiffel Tower in the moon, it's very like artistically done. It's like a painting, and it's like a nod, like an homage to like Claude Monet and like Edgar Degas. Is it Degas?
Degas, yeah.
Degas. Okay, cool. And it's like very in that style. And then there's like a lot of historical figures that are like shown through the scenes in Paris, like Josephine Baker, who was American-born like French entertainer. who was also like a huge civil rights activist, like during that time. Maurice Chevalier, French actor. Freud. I'm trying to remember who the sculptor was, but like the really famous French sculptor, Rodin, I think. But anyway,
I'm not as familiar with sculptors, but I think so.
Basically, just like during that song, I think it's really interesting. Like throughout the whole movie, it's the songs are very much like, you know, Once Upon a December is like, hey, there's this like deep memory you have that is very familiar, and then it's really you're coming into your own kind of song. Mm-hmm. Then to Hurry holds the key to your heart, which is, you know, demonstrative of both this, your heart, your family. This is where you'll like find your answers that you're looking for, you know, with the, you know, plot of her trying to find her family. But it's also when you really see Dimitri struggling with, you know, like lying to her and like realizing she's like the true princess, and really understanding and confirming his feelings to Anastasia as well, his heart.
Yeah.
So I thought that was, you know, a good way to do that.
Yeah, I thought it was really, really cool the way they kind of had him, like he had like sort of his own separate part of the song, where like the entire city was singing about like, oh, like Anastasia, like this is all for you, like you're gonna like learn so much about yourself. And
Paris is great, but like,
yeah,
for Dimitri, like holds the key to his heart, holds her memory and like her past, and just, you know, her as a person. Yeah. Physically.
And I really love how at the end of the song, like they're going back and forth between like the chorus and him like singing the lyrics. And he like puts a little like rose in his pocket. That's like kind of like symbolic of their time together, and like him like realizing like I can't do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, putting it in the pocket. It's very subdued.
Yes.
And also kind of thing, like her necklace, which says that she needs to go to Paris, is literally the key to her reuniting with her family. Mm-hmm. It's the key to the music box. So it's just, you know, very direct in your face.
Yeah. So just again, like everything is just so intentional about like the lyrics, the music, the scenery, everything is just so intentional about bringing the whole story together.
And then they get to the ballet, which I think it's hilarious what they chose for the ballet. It's Cinderella.
Yes.
So this is his first animated film. It's a musical. A lot of people assumed it was a Disney movie. When they think back about it, it wasn't. But for like, you know, a very notable Disney musical, they like allude to it in the movie. That was pretty funny.
Yeah. And then I really do like, and this is one of the ways where like, I mean, that Dmitri and Vladimir were incredibly good people for being con men, because like at the end, or not at the end, but like during the whole like ballet scene and everything, when Dmitri goes to talk to the Dowager Empress about like, hey, you need to meet this girl, like she's actually Anastasia, like she's the real deal and blah, blah, blah. Like he completely has switched from, oh, like I need to convince her because I want to get the money, to like, no, this is actually your granddaughter. Like you actually need to like this is
like you don't understand.
Like this is everything that you want. This is everything that she wants. Like she needs to be reunited with her family. Like this is the whole reason she came here. And I feel like his motive has completely switched from the money to, I really just want this for her so that she's happy, which I also think is really great.
And I also think these scenes are where, anytime she speaks in the movie, she shines. But specifically these scenes with Angela Lansbury, when she's just so like stubborn and defiant, and she was like, boy, get out of my way. You don't know, like, it's like, I thought it was fantastic. Perfect casting choice. I mean, I love Angela Lansbury so much. I know she has had way more pivotal roles in her life, but just like personally, like she's Ms. Potts. She was Love It on Broadway. Like those like titular characters that she really brought to life is just so amazing and so different in characters that like she normally does, that her role in this movie could not be more perfect.
Yeah. I also like the way that they kind of drew the Dowager Empress to be her. Like, her face and like everything, her demeanor is exactly Angela Lansbury, which I think is so great.
Yeah. And so, now, the best part of the movie, Anya beats the shit out of Dimitri.
It was so beautiful. Like, he like grabs her hand and she just like comes up with just like straight up slaps the shit out of him. Like, it's
like she like,
beautiful.
She understands like it, like she like used her core for that.
Oh yeah.
Because before she was like pushing him away and stuff, and he was like being like knocked around and stuff. But as soon as he like, really like put his hand on her, she was like, boy.
she pivoted, like she put like hips into that. Like there was force behind that slap, and it was beautiful. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And then Dimitri decides to kidnap the Dowager Empress.
It's just some good-natured, wholesome abduction of a major historical figure. We've all been there. We've all thought about it. He was pretty good at it. And
he did it very well.
That the entire time, she was just like, hey, what are you doing? Turn this car around. I will not stand for this. She wasn't like screaming out the window, help me, help me. And she was like, you're going to do what I say. Because that's how this works.
Yep. Which is just like power. And I love when he's opened the door for her and stuff like that. And she's just like, you're not gonna stop until I finally meet this girl on you. And he was just like, I'm pretty sure I'm as stubborn as you are. And I'm like, that is a tall claim. Like that is like, I believe you, but that's
you think very highly of yourself, sir.
Yeah.
Just got like beaten in front of like everyone.
Like the entire audience of the ballet saw him.
If
get
you were
slashed.
really that stubborn, you would have like really told Anya like what the deal was, what was going on.
Yeah. And then we get into the reunion scene, which I think was really well done. Like I think the dialogue between Anya and the Dowager Empress was actually probably one of the least corny parts of the movie. And I really like how they kind of just like led into them like listening to the music box and like singing the song together and everything. And I think it was just like a really cool like reunion scene.
I do think it's cool, like the really last piece of the puzzle for Anastasia, for her remembering a lot of like, those deep memories, is the thing about like the smell of peppermint. And, I think that was because how tied the sense of smell is to memory.
Yeah. And
that was like the last kind of bit for her to like really like go into that, and just led just kind of a like domino effect for the rest of it. Very cool.
Yeah, and I think that ties in really well with like the use of the Once Upon a December like lullaby for like leading her to a lot of the memories as well, because like smell and sound are the two senses like really most tied to like memory. But like a lot of times like when even like a therapist, like a psycho, what's the word? I guess a psychoanalyst or whatever, like a counselor, when they're trying to like get you to remember like potentially traumatic events from like your past and stuff like that. Like a lot of times like they have you like close your eyes, like focus on like the sounds and like the smells and like all that stuff and like what you were sensing at the time. And I think like the use of that to also lead Anastasia to her lost memories, I think was like a really cool detail in the movie.
I agree.
Yeah. And then she and Dimitri eloped, which I think was...
Well, a lot of things happened before that, really.
I feel like
the entire plot point about like, the villain.
I feel like at that point
there's much more conflicts that happens. The movie, Raven.
Honestly, at that point, I forgot about Rasputin. I was just solely focused on Anastasia and Dimitri.
Because he is just so, like, he's the primary villain who's tertiary to the story.
Yes. Which I think is also very interesting because in so many animated films, like, or so many films in general, like, if there is a major villain like Rasputin, like, they are usually driving a lot of the story. Like, a lot of things are directly happening because of them and around them. And they're basically also the main character. Whereas, like, I think in Anastasia, it's like, Rasputin, while being important to the story, was also just kind of the device by which certain things happened. And
like, I mean, they did mention the Romanov curse again when she was like on the boat and dreaming.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, oh, this exists. This is the thing I remember now. It was just like, oh, I had a nightmare about this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really not until he actually shows up after the whole like ballet scene, like all of that, when
it was after the ball, after like it was the party that was
yes, after the ball,
where Dimitri doesn't take the money, stupid,
which was amazing. No, I thought that was great. Actually,
I was like, at least take something. Also, I thought it was so funny. So Puka is like, I don't know, is with Vladimir and got a little dressed up and stuff. And when he had like the little like ceremonial like dagger sword thing, the first thing I thought of was like, what do you have there? A knife. Oh, like that video. That was pretty cool. But then Anya like talks to her grandmother, and she was like, "You're gonna do what you want." Like she was like, "I know you want to jump his bones." No judgment.
She fully supported it. It was great.
Yeah, she really did. Which, you know what? She was like, "I just got you back, but you gotta do what you gotta do." And so she like leaves after finding out like Dimitri like didn't take the money, and then Rasputin appears, and then Anastasia like recognizes him, and then again, mortal peril, unfazed, green demons jumping at her, tearing at her dress, and she's not like, "What is this?" She's just like, "This is reality. This is, you know what? I'm in a crisis. This is I need to be prepared." Which I don't know. I was going to say, I don't know what happened in her life to make her like that. Indeed, we do know what happens in her life.
Indeed, we do.
That's not a good explanation for all of a sudden dark magic is happening at you, and you're just like, you know what? I'm just going to have to deal with this.
Especially because in the opening scene where they're showing everything that's happening to the Romanov family, she is not good at handling a crisis. So
she was a child.
That's fair. But also, I feel like nothing necessarily...
But also, she was a child, that's it.
No, but I feel like nothing necessarily happened in that time between when all that happened and then her time at the orphanage. Like, what happened to her at that orphanage that suddenly she was just like...
Maybe you're right. Maybe the head of the orphanage was just, like, also into, like, some dark magic.
Maintain she was evil. Like, I maintain she was like...
She was very... she looked very like... what's her name from Sword of the Stone? Madam... what is it?
I was more thinking of the little minion from the Swan Princess.
Oh, Swan Princess. How did we not talk about this? Liz Calloway, the singing voice for Anastasia, is the Swan Princess.
Oh, what? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Which will be probably another movie we do. Something I remember watching a million times as a child.
I love
and should have been enough
the Swan
to
Princess.
Tell my parents I was gay, but it's fine. You know,
fair enough.
So then my mom did say the words, "You always did really like Sailor Moon." I was just like, you know what? I like. Yikes. So anyway, and then Anastasia is just like, you know what? I'm gonna fight Rasputin. There's like, she like fight or flight. She's a fight the entire.
She is a fighter.
The entire movie, when she like wakes up on the train and punches Dimitri in the nose, is like, my nose is broken. I'm pretty sure it's like was animated as broken for the rest of the movie.
I think so.
Yeah. And then Dimitri comes out of nowhere. I don't know where he was, but he was just there. And he was like, oh, I'm going to save you. And then there's this like statue Pegasus that like comes alive to like fight him. Which I also was cool. It was cool like because the body was like 3D, but the hair was like 2D. It's pretty cool. Also, unfazed by magical stone Pegasus trying to kill him.
Yep. And then when it shows the scene where like the Pegasus like rears up and like goes to like stomp where he's laying, and he like literally rolls out of the way with a second, like less than a second to spare. I'm just like, you are like horse kicks kill people very frequently. Like I feel like
imagine stone horse kicks, Raven.
Like I just feel
Killed
like
by demon fire. At least a slightly more painful.
He was not remotely concerned enough about his own mortality in that scene.
Also, how frail, I mean, we know how frail Rasputin is because his body's constantly falling apart. But at one point, Anastasia's like, I'm just going to punch him in the face. That's how I'm going to solve this. And like goes and like tackles him, gets knocked off, whatever. And then I think at like the same force that she hit her head as a child. So inconsistency. But then finally, when she like stomps on his like magical device thing, I thought that was animated pretty well because I like try to picture like what it would be like to like stomp on like that kind of like cylindrical item, and how it kind of rolled around and her foot like kind of lost balance for that. I was like, oh, I feel like that's how it would be. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was actually really, really well done. I also like that it wasn't just like one stomp and then, okay, it's over, you know? I like the fact that she actually did have to stomp it multiple times.
Yeah, this is for Dimitri. This is for my family. And then I think there was a third one, and she was like, what did she say?
She did say Das Vidanya, which is what he had been saying every single time he had tried to kill her, which all of them obviously failed, so.
Yeah. Oh, this goes back to like some of the history, but in the very beginning, when Rasputin like kind of like dies like in the ice, that is how he dies, from like after, you know, failed attempts to poison him with cyanide, from like wine and cakes and stuff. They shot him a bunch and then rolled him up in a carpet and threw him in an icy river, and he was found 3 days later. So like he died from the gunshots. Like his final demise was into like an icy river, which is what happened in the movie as well.
That's pretty cool. Isn't cyanide the one that tastes like almonds?
Yes.
Cause let's say like, huh?
Or is that arsenic?
It's one of them. But if it is cyanide, I was going to say it is genius to put that in a cake, because almond extract in a cake is delicious. And I would not be mad at eating it.
Yeah. I think it's cyanide.
If it is, it does slightly concern me that I know that off the top of my head. But you know what?
We got degrees in chemical engineering, Raven.
That's fair.
That's fine.
That's fair.
And we like to bake.
Also, for the record, we are now on to our 4th drink.
How drunk are you feeling?
Not as drunk as I feel like I should be. Well, actually, it hasn't been that much alcohol.
Yeah.
So where were we? So we had just finished.
So Rasputin's dead.
Yes, we were in the combat scene combat.
And then
quote unquote.
Rasputin's dead, and then Anastasia and Dimitri run off together, which leads me to think, why couldn't they stay in Paris?
Yeah, and I find it.
Isn't it kind of thing because he's like a commoner, and like the only way they can be together if they're like not around that kind of environment. But like stay there and like have money.
Yeah, and like I don't. So Sophie came in and was like, oh, like they eloped, and like her reaction along with the Dowager Empress's reaction was just like, this is not normally how most royalty or like nobility would react to this sort of news. And like the Dowager Empress likes Dimitri. Like I feel like even though he has like a quote unquote like low status, I don't necessarily know that she would.
Well, she is also grateful for him because he is the one that did save their lives and reunite them.
That's what I'm saying. So like, I feel like there's no reason that they wouldn't be allowed to be together without eloping. And presumably Anastasia wants to come back and continue to have a relationship with her grandmother. So it's just like I don't see the purpose for their elopement.
Yeah.
But anyway, just an interesting detail.
That's where it ends.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's like that's basically the entire movie, the entire plot. And we talked a lot about the plot and a little bit about the actual like music and like songs and the score and all that stuff of the movie, but honestly, the overall score for this movie I think is absolutely fantastic. Even if you take away the lyrics, I mean, the lyrics obviously contribute a lot to each of the songs, but I think even if you take away the lyrics, like, the score alone is just really inspiring, and kind of like what Campbell, what you were saying earlier about like Once Upon a December, like very hauntingly beautiful. And the score was actually done.
I did describe it accurately. You're right, Morgan. Thank you.
Thank you so much. But the score was done by David Newman, who, well, I was doing like a little bit of research on him because he actually sounded familiar when I first like read his name, and the reason.
Oh, you didn't know him before?
I didn't like know him explicitly. It was like the name was familiar to me, but I didn't know off the top of my head like
he's
what.
Very famous.
Yeah, and like as I was researching him, I was just like, this is insane. So David Newman is from the Newman family, who like is an entire family of composers. Like his dad, his brother, one of his sisters, two of his uncles, and two of his cousins are all composers. And his cousin, one of his cousins, is Randy Newman, who did the entire score for Toy Story, Monsters, Inc., Buzz Life, Cars, James and the Giant Peach.
Do you know my favorite song by Randy Newman?
You've Got a Friend in Me?
No, he has a song called People Have No Reason to Live.
Oh.
It's really funny.
Interesting. Did not know that.
Yeah. You should, we'll listen to it later.
But yeah, so like, and David Newman himself has done a ton of feature films, including The Mighty Ducks, Sandlot, Matilda, 4 Scooby-Doo movies, Ice Age, Cat in the Hat, Are We There Yet?, Serenity, Norbit, and the live-action Tarzan that recently came out, as well as the Flintstones movie. So, like, between him and his cousin alone, they have composed a significant portion of our childhoods. And I just find it, like, incredibly amazing that they come from this entire family. Like, their family is the highest nominated, like, Academy Award nominated family in music. And it's just, like, that's insane to me. He also plays the violin, and played the violin for a lot of John Williams like scoring sessions, with, like Star Wars, like all that, which is just like
amazing. This
dude, like when I started doing research on him, I was just like
he knows what's up.
He's in it, and he's there, and like I'm so happy that they got him for this movie because it would not be the same without the score.
Oh no.
Okay, so at this point we have had 5 drinks. Yes, I'd say we are sufficiently inebriated to endeavor to play this piece. So we are going to be playing...
what a totally normal way to say that.
I use the term inebriated quite frequently, mostly when I'm trying to convince people that I am not drunk. But yeah, so we are going to play Once Upon a December. It is going to be myself on the violin and then Campbell on the clarinet. And we will see how this goes. Hey everyone, since we're concerned about the possibility of maybe infringing on copyrights or even violating fair use laws, we decided to omit the audio of us actually playing the piece, so we will instead just include our reactions to it, which honestly is kind of to your own benefit as well, because it definitely was not our best performance. Hope you enjoy.
So we're about to start Once Upon a December. Raven's cat just threw up and says it's fine, and we'll get to it
she
later.
She just eats too fast and then throws it up, and I'm just like, this is your fault. I don't know what you're trying to do. But anyway, yes, Once Upon a December. Let's go.
Once Upon a December. The arrangement, sung by Liz Calloway from Anastasia. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3.
Okay, I definitely paused at some point because I realized I played the wrong note, and then I kept playing. But I'm assuming we were out of sync at that point.
Yeah. We're also like lagging with each other on the audio, so this will be really interesting. Let's
because I had no idea what part you were at any point during that.
We like kind of ended at the same spot, but like I just like could not play it because of like restriction to motor ability.
That's fair. Wait, so what measure did you want to start at?
41.
41? Okay.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. We can stop there.
I can't even read the notes anymore. What are those notes? I was way off. Okay, 1 second.
Are you talking about the 16th notes?
Yes! What? I was like reading, I was like, crap, I did not look at that before. I don't even know what notes was that. 1 second.
Yeah, that was like, when I was like playing to that part, because I like just have 4 notes, I was just like, there's no way in hell she's going to be able to play that right now. This state.
That did not go well. Okay. I honestly don't remember what notes I was playing. Okay. D, B, C, D.
You want to start at the forte afterwards?
I was close. Yes. Okay. Okay. So, what measure is that? That is.
We're going to start at the fortissimo. At the fortissimo, at the forte.
I was about to say, you don't know your dynamic markings, sir. That is a forte.
Shut up.
Okay. Yeah. So at the forte, what measure? 65. Okay.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2.
I feel like that was supposed to anticlimactic ending. I don't know about yours, but I had just like pizzicato and then
definitely not in sync.
We definitely were not in sync, but it's okay. I mean, I can edit the.
Hopefully, we were the same tempo, so the Audacity would line up the same.
Yeah, I can match up the audio so that I'll figure out a way so that we sound like we know what we're doing.
We weren't bad.
I was okay. I don't know about you. I mean, with the exception of those 16th notes.
Holy shit! You know what? Go fuck yourself. Like I'm just saying. Like I literally just said we were fine. We were okay. Mediocrity. And you're like, you know what? I can't say that for you.
I'm just saying.
Rude.
Look, okay, I know how I sounded.
I'm looking.
The audio is pretty distorted, so I just personally can't speak to how you sounded. You're probably fine. You're probably great.
Thank you.
Also, all of this is going in the podcast, I hope you know.
Oh yeah, us just being like, oh no, let's start here. It's like, oh, that was bad. Oh, that was good. We literally never said any part of it was good, but I agree. Okay, so that was Anastasia.
That was our best attempt.
I apologize to everyone how we butchered it after rambling about it to no one's benefit, not even our own. But do you know what the important thing is, Raven?
What?
That we had a good time.
Oh, fuck you.
Oh, before that, yeah, because that's a gross thing to say. Can I say the grossest thing of this movie?
Yeah, what?
Hold on.
Oh, is it one of the lines that you wrote down?
Yeah. Okay, so it's when the grandmother was like, why the change of mind? And then Dimitri was like, it was more a change of heart. I wanted to bark.
That's pretty on brand for you.
Yeah, so that feeling is how I feel after us playing that song.
That's pretty fair. That was not our best work.
Oh no. We've also had a lot of alcohol. Raven. I don't know how you're feeling, but I'm feeling pretty good.
I am feeling pretty good. Okay, so that was Anastasia, and that was our attempt at performing one of the key pieces from the movie. Literally, the entire plot is centered around it. So, yeah, I think it's fair to say we did it justice. So if you are, you know what, we tried our best.
We tried our best.
If you are still listening, thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Next week, tune in for our review and attempt at playing Grease. And we will not see you then, but we hope you catch it. So, good night.
She literally just did a thumbs up to all of you. But this is an audio medium, so no one sees that.
I have had 5 drinks.
But yes, I hope you enjoyed. It's fine. It's fine. We should probably eat something and take a nap. Overall, Anastasia, pretty good musical. I dig it.
Yeah, I think it was. I honestly think it's a great film, and I think just the overall like score and everything of it is just absolutely beautiful. Especially for like an animated like children's film that you normally don't expect that much going into. So if you haven't seen it, highly encourage it. And yeah, I hope you tune in for next time. Bye.
Bye.